Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down the key strategic trends from the Institute for the Study of War's daily assessment for August 3rd, 2025. So let's jump right in with the big question.
You know, when you think about this war, you probably pictured trenches, a static front line, artillery duels. But what if the real battlefield is much, much bigger than that?
And this map shows you exactly what I'm talking about. Sure, you see the traditional front lines right here, but the real story today, the big one, is happening hundreds of kilometers inside Russia itself. The war is expanding far beyond the borders of Ukraine.
And that's our first major theme today. Because on August 3rd, some of the most important military action wasn't a battle over some small village. No, it was a series of very calculated strikes against Russia's strategic depth.
And what's really key here isn't just one single incident, it's the pattern. We have a confirmed hit on a Rosneft oil depot in Adler, with geolocated images showing multiple fuel tanks just engulfed in fire. And then we have reports of another strike on a refinery way over in Kostotorovo. Ukraine is systematically targeting Russia's energy infrastructure, and that's the absolute lifeblood of its war machine.
So, how does Russia respond to all this? Well, after years of these attacks, it looks like Moscow is finally being forced to adapt its entire defensive posture. It's a classic game of action and reaction, and we're watching it play out in real time. For years, this was the story. You had internal critics, these Russian mill bloggers, just pointing out this massive vulnerability, all these incredibly expensive aircraft just sitting exposed on open tarmacs. A vulnerability that Ukraine exploited again and again. But it seems that pressure, combined with very real, persistent losses, is finally forcing a change. And here is that change, laid out pretty clearly. The problem? Vulnerable aircraft and big gaps in radar coverage. The solution? A huge new initiative to build hardened aircraft shelters and to deploy a new generation of Voronezh early warning radars, which Russia is claiming will have absolutely no blind spots. The point is, this is a major strategic investment.
And this is not just talk. Satellite imagery shows construction is already underway. This slide highlights bases like Milarovo and Halino, right near the border, where Russia is rushing to build these protective shelters. They are literally trying to harden their military against this long-range threat.
But Russia's adaptation isn't just about defense. They're also evolving their offensive strikes. By getting ready to launch Shahed drones from closer locations, like occupied Donetsk city, they're aiming to give Ukrainian air defenses far less time to react. That makes their own drone campaign much more lethal.
But while this strategic air war is escalating, we cannot forget where Russia's primary effort still is. And that takes us to the brutal, grinding ground war in the east. This map here shows you the big picture. Russia's main objective on the ground hasn't changed at all: seize all of Donetsk Oblast. This remains the absolute epicenter of the conventional fighting. And if Donetsk is the epicenter, then the city of Pokrovsk is the absolute heart of the battle. The ISW report is crystal clear. This is currently the most intense and difficult sector of the entire war. This is where the ground war is being decided right now.
And this isn't just an analyst's opinion. Ukraine's own top commander, General Syrsky, confirmed it on the very same day. He came out and said that the situation around Pokrovsk is the most critical challenge his forces are facing.
So how are Russian forces actually advancing? Well, it's not with massive tank columns. It's with these methodical, infantry-led tactics. You have small sabotage groups probing the defenses. Then tiny fire teams, we're talking just 2 or 3 soldiers, infiltrate Ukrainian lines. They then link up, they gather at a concentration point, and then they launch a bigger, more coordinated attack from inside or even behind Ukrainian positions. It's a slow, grinding, and incredibly costly way to take a city.
Okay, so now let's zoom out one last time to a completely different kind of front line. One that's being fought not with drones or infantry, but in the shadows all across Europe.
30. Just let that number sink in. In 2024 alone, there were 30 suspected Russian sabotage and hybrid attacks across Europe. We're talking about arson, disruption, and intelligence ops, all designed to destabilize NATO countries from within.
But that leads to a really interesting puzzle that the report highlights. After that huge surge in activity,
there's been a noticeable slowdown in 2025. So what's going on here? Why the shift?
Well, analysts don't really have one single answer, but there are several compelling theories floating around. It could be a political calculation, maybe not wanting to antagonize a new U.S. administration. It might be practical, maybe intelligence resources are just being shifted to the main front in Ukraine. Or it could be a response to successful counterintelligence from the West that's deterring new recruits.
But here is the crucial warning. This slowdown does not necessarily mean the threat is gone. Analysts cited in the report think this could just be a tactical pause, a moment for Russia to refine its methods and rebuild its networks for a whole new wave of hybrid attacks in the future.
So, when you put all of this together, the deep strikes, the ground war, the shadow war, what do you get? You get a really clear picture of a conflict that's defined by constant, relentless adaptation.
This slide really sums up that core dynamic. First, Ukraine innovates, striking deeper into Russia. Then, Russia is forced to react, to harden its defenses after years of doing nothing. This cycle of innovation and adaptation is happening all at once, across every single domain, from drone warfare to infantry tactics to covert operations.
Which, of course, brings us all the way back to our first question, but with a whole new perspective. In a war that's being fought with drones over oil refineries, with saboteurs in European warehouses, and with two-man fire teams in eastern cities, what does the idea of a front line even mean anymore?